This webinar is on goal setting as a tool for effective and inclusive online education. This webinar is part of a series of 5 webinars. And today's topic is implementing goal setting in online education. You've probably seen some of the other videos. Now you want to consider implementing, and this is the topic of today. With me is Michaela Schippers. Welcome. Tell us, who is Michaela?
I'm a professor of behavior and performance management at the Rotterdam School of Management, Erasmus University. And my main goal in life and in my work is to optimize well-being, happiness and performance of students, but basically also general society.
Yeah. And you've implemented goal setting in RSM, and you know about implementation projects in other schools. So
yes.
This is the topic of today is really your experience with implementing goal setting. Yeah?
Yes.
Let's move to a slide, and then we can delve into the different topics that really make an implementation successful. What is the most important part of this, do you think?
So we've talked about the parts of the intervention, and we talked about what they look like, but then we want students to actually do it, right? So we had in our school 700 students, and I thought, how can I make sure they all do it? Well, the easiest way is to make it mandatory. Because I thought if I do not make it mandatory, then students, only the best students will do it, and they will have the least, they will profit the least from this intervention. Sure. We want all students to do it, struggling students, good students, and we've seen that good students profit about 5%, and the least performing students can profit up to 50% of this intervention. So the first question I always get if I implement it in any institution is, can we make it voluntary? And I say, well, if you do, you can, but then I'm out of here because it's not going to work.
You're not going to do this? You're not going to support a school that wants to do it as an option or so?
I've done it once, and I said beforehand, then, you know, only, no matter how hard you work, only a small percentage of students are going to do it. So I think the largest percentage of voluntary engagement was about 11%.
Yeah, that's very low.
And then they did everything. They tried everything to make students engaged.
And then your point is, it's not worth the effort. And the benefit that those voluntary students have is only marginal or limited.
Yes.
The ones that don't want to do it probably can benefit the most.
Exactly. I had one school where 1,100 students were supposed to do it, and then I said, you know, let's do a bet. We make the third part voluntary, because we know the first 2 parts already work on their own. So the public commitment part was voluntary. So they did the first 2 parts with 1,100 students, and guess how many students did the third part, which is really nice actually, with this photo and this line.
And?
It was only 45 students.
45 out of
1,100, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's almost.
No. You know? So if this is a stumbling block, you really need to discuss. Do you really want to have goal setting, and do you want to have the benefits of goal setting?
Exactly. Exactly. And you don't have to make it really hard mandatory in the sense that you have to give a grade. So what we did in our school was we just said you have to do it, and it's part of a series of pass-fail.
Anyone that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
So what's the second one that you need to consider in implementing?
Yes. Yeah, implementing is really important. So actually, what's not in here is that it's as early as possible in the educational timing. I already mentioned.
In the first week or in
the third week about.
The third week.
Yeah, because the first week is really, you know, they do everything and they have to get acquainted to the school, and it's a very busy week. So the second week is possible, but my ideal is at this school at least.
At the start of the program, ideally.
Yes.
As soon as possible.
Yes, as soon
and
as
it takes about a year. We addressed that topic in the process video.
Yes.
It takes about a year. So
it takes about a year, but the first 3 interventions are done before Christmas, let's say.
Okay.
The first 3 parts of the intervention, or the 4
okay,
parts.
So what are the other elements that are important to take into account? You need to have.
Well, it's important, or it works for some schools really good to have it in class. because that also increases engagement. So you do it in class, but they have to do it in silence. But then there is some support. I don't understand this question. Can you help a little bit? But they shouldn't be talking to each other, but really have a nice and silent environment. But you can also do it at home in the evening. That's what we did with our students. We couldn't put them in a big lecture hall of 700 students and let them do it together. So we gave it as an assignment, a take-home assignment.
Yeah. So what kind of support structure do you need to have in place to get this really going?
So if you do it in class, then you need some people who know about the intervention, who've ideally done it themselves. So it can be mentoring students, it can be teachers, whoever is available.
Yeah.
And so you need 1.5 or 2 hours to do that. So people really have the time to write.
Do students need to discuss the outcome with a mentor or a coach? Is that something that is really beneficial, or is just optional and not necessary, really?
It's not necessary, but it's really nice addition. For instance, we know at many schools they have a huge number of students, and they have this 10 minutes counseling with mentoring students or mentors. And then what I always advise is to have, if they have this 2 hour of writing, they can come with very focused questions. Okay, this is what I want to achieve. Do you have any advice for me? If you have only 10 minutes, then it's nice that you prepared it in a really good way.
So it puts the agenda. It makes an agenda for this 10-minute conversations.
Exactly.
Yeah, indeed. So, is there a Q&A kind of thing, or something that students can refer to or raise questions with, or where do we want all the experiences of a school to reside in a certain way? Can you explain?
What do you mean by that? Oh, so what I do it a little bit differently. What I think is that, students set goals for themselves. And then they can think, okay, how am I going to reach those goals? My ideal would be that students form communities, either online or offline, however they want, but having similar goals, for instance, or trying to make each other enthusiastic about the goals.
How do students find out about the goals of someone else?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you can make a system for that to match. We've been thinking about implementing something like that. We haven't done it yet because of let's say support problems. But the idea would be that you have a kind of a matching on the kind of goals that you set. Let's say if you want physical fitness, but you can also try to put a Facebook page.
Exactly.
And that people find each other. Who wants to, I don't know, do this together with me, or study in the library with me, or.
Does that really happen a lot among students, that they catch up and collaborate on these topics?
Not automatically. So I think you need to have a kind of a support system in place to, and then probably it will happen. But we haven't done it before. But that is something I would advise to do. Because inspiring, I know it happens with, let's say, sports clubs, that people inspire each other to lose weight or to, I don't know.
I think a Facebook page would really make sense and is easy to implement.
Achieve.
Yeah, exactly. So if we think about the implementation, the mandatory element is the most important one, you said.
Yes. Because if people don't do the intervention, then there's no, all the other ones are add-ons. We know it works. We had a very, let's say, I had only one person and one student, it was me, doing it next to 15 projects, and one student assistant for half a day a week. And we had to implement it for 700 students. So it was very bare implementation. And that already worked with a 22% increase in study success. So everything else, except the mandatory and the timing, is kind of an add-on. It helps and it's nice, and it creates more interaction between your students, and maybe they have a little bit more extra effect. But I don't expect huge extra effects in terms of study success, but it does in commitment to the school, a nice atmosphere, which is also
also important. So we discussed, say, the generic conditions for implementing a project. Let's move on to what you really need to cater for in terms of within the course or in the school itself. Can you elaborate a bit on this? Because is this a complex implementation? Does it take a lot of signing offs and people being committed to this? Can you start small? What do you need to take into account?
Well, the first most important thing I've noticed in any school is that you have a contact person within the school that is really committed and takes care of the implementation within the school. So basically what you also need is commitment on all levels in the institution. So on the course level, you need a course instructor who introduces the goal setting, or I could do it, or you could use these videos to introduce it. Then you need, of course, a course instructor that already did it before, let's say.
I think that's your advice.
Yes.
If you want to consider implementing, do it yourself for once, as you did when you started off with this. Huh?
Yes, I did it twice in total. And I even made a separate one. All my interventions I do myself first to test them and see how they work for me. And so I did it, I think it's now 10 years ago or something, or 11 years. And then 7 years later I did it again to see, because my goals change over time. So you can do it like at the beginning of the study and at the end of the studies. But I wanted to see what I put my students through. And if, as a course instructor, you need to know what you're giving to your students. So, and then you can advise them also and help them. So
this is on the course level. You need to have someone who really can drive this.
Yes, and it's not a lot of workload. That's what I need to say, because this is so scalable. You can just say, okay, here is the intervention. You can please do it.
Can you be slightly more specific on not enough workload? Because I think academics
they always
hear that a lot, and then in the final end, it's a lot more work than they expect. So.
Well, basically, as I said, I did it myself, like next to 15 projects with the one student assistant. So what I did is I introduced it to my students, and then I said, I put it in the course manual. We even have text, we have slides that can be used, like these slides can be used, the videos can be used. So it can be as much and as little work as you want it to. But the main thing is that you put it in the course manual as part of the course, and you introduce it to your students. That's basically, and you have to be committed yourself, because I've had teachers that somebody from outside higher on said, you have to do this, and then the teacher said, I want to do my own thing, and then it's not working.
No. So this is course level. Then you have program level?
Yes. So you really have, of course, resources available for this.
Which resources do you need to have available?
Well, for at least, if we implement it, then our work needs to be paid. So
of course.
That's really monetary resources, but also somebody needs to have, contact that can be the course instructor, but it can also be from program management to contact with our team. 700 students need on this date, they need the online intervention. Can you send it? So we actually send it.
Yeah. But how much resource do you need to have available within the school to support this once it is running? Is it indeed a student assistant 2 days a week? You can do it?
Yeah, and somebody somebody who has regularly contact you.
For sure.
You need to be able to phone each other if something goes wrong. For instance, the students can't. They get a login, but they cannot enter it. So you need to, on certain days, you really need to be standby.
Or the deadlines, the days of the deadlines.
Or the students are in class. Make sure to test it first. Sometimes there's things with firewalls, and then the emails, the students don't get the emails, so all these kind of...
Yeah, that's part of the do-it-yourself approach. Do it yourself once, and then you find out if this really is hindering implementation.
Exactly.
So what about the school level? Does the dean need to be committed on this, or can you do it sneaky in a small corner of the program?
You could, but it helps if the dean is... the dean of our university was really committed, and then you see we ran the program for 11 years, and it was very successful. So that really helps.
Yeah. Yes. So what else needs to be implemented at the school level, do you think?
Well, I think it is important to consider if you want to know if it worked or not, or that you say, okay, I already know it works, so fine. We've seen the literature, but it doesn't work for all students at the same
in the same manner, probably.
Yes. So the only school that it didn't work is the economics faculty.
Because?
We're not sure.
Okay.
Maybe they already have very good goals. We don't know. But we know there was a huge study in Canada, and our own study showed that we didn't find differences between students in terms of study success, at least.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
This also creates a lot of data.
Yes.
Is that a resource that a school might be interested in performing research on the project?
Yes, I always advise at least universities to work with me and with our team to do collaborative research. So with some schools we've done really nice collaborative research, published the findings. So there's all kinds of win-win situations.
Yeah.
You can also calculate how much extra income you get from the school. We did that with the Rotterdam Hogeschool, High School.
Rotterdam Business School.
The Rotterdam Business School, yeah.
Yeah. And is this data, is it relevant for which academic area? Is it personnel management, organizational behavior? People might be interested in this?
Both, and
Both?
and psychologists, but also we always make a report for each institution. So part of the, let's say, we ask for some money, but then we also, per student, but then we also make a report for the school, and we report if their well-being has increased. What we consistently find is really interesting is if depressed students, if they write more, they have better study success.
Yeah.
So even it has a crossover. So they even have a little bit higher study success than non-depressed students who write also a lot.
Well, and I could imagine that stress among students is a really important topic nowadays.
Yes.
So, I mean, to really make an increase in this particular area, and that has backup and is being researched, could be of good importance, I think, to the dean.
Yes, especially also with the chatbot, which we will talk about in the last video. Yeah. It's also we saw increase in not increase, but decrease in stress for the students who use the chatbot.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This was it. If you want to know more, please visit the website of the Erasmus Center for Study and Career Success, or mail us at goalsetting@rsm.nl. Thank you for watching.